Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh and you're joining us on NewsX World. Let's take a quick look now at some of the top stories we're tracking for you this hour. Israel's army chief has said the country will respond severely to rockets that were fired from Lebanon. The Prime Minister of Lebanon has warned against the risk of being dragged into a new war with Israel following the strikes. Hamas say they are reviewing a U.S. proposal to restore the Gaza ceasefire following intensifying attacks from Israel. Reports suggest that Enclave's only specialist cancer hospital has been destroyed, with the Ministry of Health in Gaza calling it a heinous crime. Five people have been killed and several others have been injured in Russian strikes across Ukraine. President Zelensky's forces have also struck Russia, leading to reported injuries amidst ongoing U.S. calls for a ceasefire. U.S. President Donald Trump has revoked the legal status of 530,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua and Venezuela. The move, which is effective from April 24th, cuts short a 2-year parole granted under the Biden administration. Elon Musk has held an unprecedented top-level meeting at the Pentagon as he continues his campaign to cut the U.S. federal government. Musk also has called for prosecution of an official leaking what he calls maliciously false information about the visit. The top diplomats from Japan, China and South Korea have met in Tokyo as the East Asian countries seek common ground on security and economics. Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya has said the meet comes at a turning point in history. Sudan's army has retaken key buildings in central Khartoum, including the presidential palace, after promising full liberation. The military continues to pressure the rapid support forces who have withdrawn from some areas, though the battle is not over. Flights have resumed at Heathrow Airport, with full service expected on Saturday following a full shutdown. Police say the nearby substation that led to the closure is not believed to be suspicious. The economic impact of the closure is predicted to be in the hundreds of millions. And our big story, a major shift in U.S. immigration policy. The Trump administration is set to revoke the temporary legal status of over 530,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua and Venezuela. This includes individuals brought into the U.S. through a program under the Biden administration called CHNV. The program, which allowed migrants with U.S. sponsors to stay temporarily, is now facing cancellation. The Department of Homeland Security has warned these migrants to leave by the 24th of April or risk deportation. The Biden administration has created the CHNV program to curb illegal border crossings and vet newcomers more thoroughly. However, Trump's team has argued it failed to meet its goals. The U.S. is also reconsidering the legal status of 240,000 Ukrainians who fled the war with Russia. Well, adding to the changes, the U.S. will soon end temporary protected status for over 500,000 Haitians and Venezuelans. These moves are facing legal challenges, though. Joining us now at this point is Elizabeth Larus, Professor Emerita of Political Science at the University of Mary, Washington. She's joining us live from Washington, D.C. in the United States of America. Many thanks to you for being live with us. Let me begin by asking you about what you make of these changes and what kind of ramifications they're going to have.
Well, certainly President Trump is acting with dispatch, as the U.S. Constitution allows him to do. He's getting rid of the suspected members and known members of the gang called Tren de Aragua, which really are the worst of the worst when it comes to violations against American people's security. On the one hand, though, the controversy, of course, on the one hand is over, rule of law in the United States. One is innocent until proven guilty. Now, entering illegally means that they are guilty. Are they guilty of belonging to Tren de Aragua based on their, tattoos? That's a question. Have they committed crimes against American people? That's a question. But on the other hand, Trump knows that if these people are in prison and they're going through the legal process, that Democrats under the Biden administration had really gutted the justice system and local law enforcement. And they're just going to be out on the street and in Trump's terms, terrorizing the American people again. And so he says, let's get them out of this country. And but of course, this is going through the court system right now, so it remains to be seen, which way the courts are going to go on this.
Professor Larus, was this something to be expected given Trump's strong stance against immigration and particularly illegal immigration, or has this move come as a surprise?
No, this is no surprise. Illegal immigration, the uncontrolled flow of illegal immigrants was the #1 campaign issue. And poll after poll indicated that the American people found it to be their #1 concern and the thing they wanted him to address. And so, no, it is no surprise. And he said he was going to do this. He had signed a number of executive orders. He, appointed really tough people, Holman of ICE, to deal with this. And the Senate, did approve that confirmation. So there's no surprise here. If anyone's surprised, I don't know where they've been, the past really like year or two.
As far as, of course, then these rules, effect is concerned, do we expect mass deportations from next month when they kick in?
Well, again, we'll have to see if the courts are trying to prevent it. There was a judge who said those flights, that went to El Salvador were illegal, and the Trump administration said, no, they're already in the air, by the time that order came down. So listen, I would anticipate that President Trump will continue to push for as more as he can do. He is certainly one who is, pushing to see what the limits are of executive power. And by, invoking the 1970, the 1700s Illegal Aliens Act, he says this is getting terrorists out of the country. And the question is, how do you define a terrorist? A terrorist is one whose agenda, whose action is to target innocent people to change the political, economic, or social order of a country. And so does Trinidad, meet that definition? According to Trump, it does. If it does, then he is within the parameters of that law to remove people. So I would expect more removals.
Okay, as you said, this is something that could invite legal scrutiny, so we will wait and watch that space. But as far as, of course, this demographic is concerned, do we expect protests from them?
I think it would be, yes, certainly some people are going to protest, but, this puts, who's going to protest? So it's going to be, some advocates for, immigrants in the United States and perhaps some Democrats. But look, the Democratic Party got a real beating in the November 2024 election. So midterm elections are coming up in 2026 for every member of Congress and some senators. So who's going to be, the Democrat that stands up and says, let's fight this thing. Let's leave these criminal elements, in our midst. So that, they could come back and hurt us another day. That's a very difficult hill to die on for Democrats.
Right. Elizabeth Larus, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that big story. All right, turning our focus now to some more news we're tracking this hour. Israel has on Tuesday begun a fresh assault on the war-battered enclave, shattering the relative calm since the January 19th ceasefire. The strikes, by far the deadliest since the truce took effect in January, have killed more than 500 people, according to the health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza. One of the most devastating strikes hit Gaza's only specialized cancer hospital, the Turkish-Palestinian Friendship Hospital, causing significant damage and raising fears of a worsening humanitarian crisis. Reports indicate several patients and medical staff were amongst the casualties. Last week, U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has proposed a bridge plan aiming to extend the ceasefire into April beyond the holidays of Ramadan and Passover to allow time for negotiations on a permanent cessation of hostilities. Hamas said it was still debating Witkoff's proposal and other ideas with the goal of reaching a deal on prisoner releases, ending the war and securing a complete Israeli military withdrawal from the Gaza Strip. According to Israel's defense ministry, the airstrikes are part of a broader strategy to cripple Hamas's operational capabilities while leveraging the pressure to secure the release of hostages. Israeli officials have reiterated that their operations will continue until all hostages are freed, despite mounting international concern. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas's Fatah movement has called on Hamas on Saturday to relinquish power in order to safeguard the existence of Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Fatah spokesperson Monther al-Haik in a message said Hamas must show compassion for Gaza its children, women and men. He called on Hamas to step aside from governing and fully recognize that the battle ahead will lead to the end of Palestinians' existence if it remains in power in Gaza. The U.S. National Security Council spokesman Brian Hughes has stated previously that Hamas could have released hostages to extend the ceasefire, but instead chose refusal and war. Hamas has now countered that accusation by saying that the United States is distorting the facts. Hamas said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu rejected these initiatives and deliberately sabotaged them to serve his political interests. Well, joining us now live is Ahmed Fatou, spokesperson for the Fatah movement. He's joining us live from Ramallah in Palestine. Thank you very much for being with us today. Let me begin by just asking you about, what you really make of these fresh talks, of course, between Hamas and the United States, and also Hamas and the Fatah. Do you believe that they are going to look with seriousness at your request to relinquish power?
Thank you for having me. First, I would like to send our condolences and deep sadness for our victims in Gaza and in the West Bank. The scene is catastrophic, it's tragic. The scenes we are witnessing is beyond words, cannot be described in any vocabulary, the amount of oppression and injustice that we are witnessing. And we need to stress that the world needs to stop this madness, this genocidal war led by a mad criminal Netanyahu and his mad religious Zionist party that is pushing forward for ethnic cleansing based on a supremacist, racist ideology that want to eliminate the Palestinian people. This is the very most important part that the world need to work all against this scene of fascism that we are witnessing today in 2025. We, of course, advise our friends in Gaza and Hamas to relinquish from power, as it was said and expressed, because this occupation want to use their existence as a pretext to eliminate the Palestinian people, to destroy the Palestinian existence. They are targeting civilians, hospitals, as you have seen, schools, universities. They are not really after Hamas, they are after the Palestinian people. Therefore, we are asking Hamas to stop this grab to the authority, bring back the negotiations to the legitimate government, to the PLO, the Palestinian Authority. You have to line with the Arabs after the Arab summit that has provided a detailed, specific plan that could move forward for peace and rebuilding and reconstructing Gaza, as well as find a horizon, a political horizon, in order to begin a two-state solution and a global conference for peace. And on the other hand, the United States need to also compel Israel to respect the two-state solution, respect human rights. Now the entire Middle East has announced, not now actually, since 1993, the two-state solution, reiterated it in 2002 with the Arab Peace Initiative. Israel rejected it. Hamas actually announced that they accept the two-state solution long before. Israel continued its oppression and colonialism. Now we are the children of today. The case that we have today demand from everyone to remove arms immediately. There are children dying, no matter what. Everybody should stop killing children immediately. And we ask Hamas to step down from power. They have expressed that they accepted the Arab plan. They accepted to step down from power. Now it's the time to give negotiations, civil negotiations, civilian acts, a time, opportunity. Enough killing, enough destruction, enough bombing. Let's give peace talks a chance.
And if that doesn't happen, Ahmed Fatou, then what do you see happening next? What do you believe the next strategy of the Israeli forces will be?
Israeli strategy since the beginning was to ethnic cleansing of Palestinian people. It's obvious from their political intent, from their declaration, from their statements, from day-to-day actions. Israel plan is to liquidate the Palestinian cause. They have a false idea, thinking that killing, massacring with this carte blanche, with this green light given by the United States and the West, that if they kill as much as possible from Palestinians and supposedly thinking that if they move millions from Gaza to Sinai and millions from West Bank to the Jordan, that this will end the Palestinian cause. Of course, this gonna only intensify the Palestinian cause 10,000 times more harder than today. They are out of their minds. They want colonialism, colonialist expansionism, and to build their greater Israel. This needs to be prevented, and the world needs to stand clear against these supremacist, fascist, racist ideologies. There has been detailed reports by the United Nations, by human rights organizations, by legal experts, by Israeli experts, by Israeli historians, by everyone, stating clear that we are facing an unprecedented, racist, fascist ideological extremist government exists right now in Israel. It's a shame that it still has connection or relations with the modern civil world. It needs to be stopped and to look clearly about the ICC reports, about the UN reports, and to go enforce the law and save humanity.
Okay. Ahmed Fatou, I have to also ask you about why do you believe the Hamas is so reluctant, in ceding power currently, despite seeing what may lie ahead for the Palestinian people, as you've just, told us. Also, what explains their refusal to release all hostages as of now, which has obviously led to the ceasefire being broken?
Negotiations is a two-way road. Israel wants to take, it does not want to give. Israel wants to keep the occupation, but wants security. Israel wants its hostages while keeping thousands of Palestinian hostages in jails. Israel wants peace to their people, but to kill and amputate the limbs of thousands of children. And we see these tragic scenes that is wrenching our hearts. This is not the real world. The real world is that Israel needs also to realize that it is doing crimes against humanity and it must stop. Now, in terms of the negotiations, I think Hamas has been fooled by the Americans, and they went into an unserious side negotiations, trying to drift them away from the Arab plan, which they accepted actually. And they have been fooled by being asked to give all hostages back. Now, we have to also say that the remained are soldiers. The remaining prisoners are not civilian prisoners, are actually soldiers, so they are prisoners. Now, Hamas said from the very beginning, we want to swap all for all. Israel does not want to. Now, in any case, we in Fatah say that we must save our people right now, and Hamas should give the negotiation cards to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. We know how to deal with them because we have the experience. We are negotiating with Israel since 1993. We are the legitimate authority. We have the international recognition and the relations and the experience to deal with that. Also to side and to give the Arabs the negotiations efforts as well.
Right.
Now, yes.
Okay. Ahmed Fatou, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on that big story. Moving on now to more news coming in. Elon Musk has met with the Defense Secretary of the United States of America, Pete Hegseth, at the Pentagon to discuss government spending and efficiency. However, controversy emerged after reports suggested Musk would be briefed on secret war plans for China, which he dismissed as pure propaganda. Musk called for the prosecution of Pentagon leakers, prompting an investigation into unauthorized disclosures of national security. Information critics raised concerns about potential conflicts of interest due to Musk's business dealings in China and Pentagon contracts with SpaceX and Starlink. Democratic senators questioned the justification for sharing sensitive information with Musk. Despite the backlash, Musk appeared optimistic about the meeting, emphasizing his commitment to a positive outcome. Well, joining us now live is Raymond Vickery, former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. He's live with us from Washington, D.C., United States of America. Thank you very much for being with us today. Why has Elon Musk's meeting at the Pentagon raised such a hue and cry and controversy?
Well, thanks for having me, Pratap. It's a pleasure to be with you. This really is an unprecedented breach of the conflict of interest rules. As you may know, Elon Musk, through SpaceX and News and Starlink, has billions of dollars of contracts with the Department of Defense. And so to have him come in and really be in charge of what's going to happen in terms of personnel and allocation of employees for the department is a very glaring conflict of interest. This, of course, is nothing new. He's been barging in, eliminating whole agencies in the rest of the government, really contrary to laws designed to protect civil servants, military personnel in the United States. So that's the basic problem here. It has exacerbated, of course, in the case of the Department of Defense because of Elon Musk's extensive relationships with the People's Republic of China and the Communist Party that rules it. The very largest Tesla plant that Elon Musk has is in China, and he has spoken favorably from a PRC point of view about Taiwan and what would happen to it, and maybe it should become like Hong Kong, which we know has been absorbed into China with very harmful results in terms of the rule of law, the courts, democracy in Hong Kong. So this is the exacerbation. There was a report from the New York Times, confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, that in this meeting that was to take place with Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, that there was going to be a briefing on China. That was reported from multiple sources within the Pentagon. Now, when that got out in the New York Times and as confirmed by the Wall Street Journal, there were immediate denials because that would have been an exceptional breach of the line between public and private activity,
right,
and a breach of the conflict of interest. So that's what's going on here. But it is of a piece of the whole approach of the administration toward a renovation of the United States government.
Absolutely. Now, of course, interestingly, Musk has called for action against these leakers of the information. We'll have to wait and watch whether that does happen or not. But, you know, as far as, of course, the hue and cry over his conflict of interest is concerned, it's not the first time that it's happened. This charge has been leveled earlier too. But, you know, that's unlikely to diminish his role or to stop his, influence, isn't it, Raymond Vickery?
Well, at some point, the constitutional crisis will be full-blown in the United States as the courts take a look at what Musk is doing and what President Trump is doing. There are laws in the United States governing the treatment of personnel, whether they be military or civilian, designed to protect them from this sort of political hammering, which is the stock in trade of the Trump administration. So the courts are going to be taking a look at it. And then, of course, we have midterm elections which come up next year, and the voters will be able to weigh in again on the makeup of the House of Representatives and the Senate, which to this point have been completely controlled by supporters of President Trump and have provided no checks and balances. But there's still time for the system which we have, the constitutional system, a system which is shared by other great democracies such as India, Japan, in Europe, to provide for a rule of law and an approach which is not authoritarian and not mimicking that of China.
Okay. My thanks to Raymond Vickery for joining us with your perspective on that big story. And that's all we have time for on this broadcast. We will continue to bring you more news and updates from around the world. Stay tuned. For the time being, taking a quick break.